Good afternoon, world. This is your main man, Red, coming at you with episode number 3, part number 2 of Blows, BLOWS. This is all going to be featured on the podcast topic of bees. And remember when I told you guys last episode, when we covered the UFC, me and the wife, that I'd be coming at you with episode 3 part 2. Well, episode 3 part 2 is still part of the Blows, but guess what? On this side, on this end, we're going to go ahead and chop it up about the WWF, WWE. Now, I reference the WWF, WWE because it used to be the World Wrestling Federation. Now it's, World Wide Entertainment or World Wrestling Entertainment? I don't know. But at some point during the time frame of my childhood to my adulthood, it changed. Now, a little bit about myself, guys. I grew up in the Attitude Era. I covered a little bit of that Ruthless Aggression era. I know a little bit about what's going on nowadays. I know about our tribal chief, Roman Reigns, who defeated Solo Sikoa. I know about main event Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. I know about that bloodline, the Cody Rhodes, all of those guys. But I'm hard pressed to tell you guys that those names are probably not going to be involved in much of what I'm going to speak about today. Because what I'm coming at you with is the top 5 greatest matches of WWF, WWE, according to me. And I'm coming at you with my top 10 wrestlers of all time. Now, it took me a minute to put this list together because I had to consult a couple of my boys who also grew up at around the same time as me, watching and keeping up with what's going on with the WWF, WWE, both back then and even now. So, I'm going to give you quite a few honorable mentions here because I got their list sitting right here next to me as well. Again, you guys all have the opportunity to shoot me a comment, give me some of your feedback when I post these up. Again, we're going to do some lives at a point. I'm going to take some calls at a point once I get used to this whole podcasting. But as I said, guys, this is just episode 3. I'm learning how to do this. I'm trying to get the feedback to try to be a good podcaster, a great podcaster, I don't know. And I'm just talking about everything there is under the sun. Again, I'm going to give everything a B, hence topic of B's. And we can chat, have a conversation. Without further ado, let's get started with the top 5 greatest matches of WWF, WWE. I'm going to start with number 5. Number 5 is, for me, Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, facing off against Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF Championship. Now, this one here was centered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Kurt Angle's hometown. And this is following the storyline of Kurt Angle and Austin having one of the greatest, bloodiest matches the pay-per-view before, where Kurt Angle graciously kicked out of not 1, not 2, but 3 Stone Cold Stunners. And Stone Cold was so flustered, he was so frustrated that he had to get himself disqualified so that he wouldn't lose his belt that night. This is also going to include where everybody knows Austin 316 drives out in his little truck and just sprays everybody with beer. Well, Kurt Angle said, hey, guess what? I'm a muscle man. So I'm going to drive out here in my little Zamboni vehicle and I'm going to spray everybody with milk. Tell y'all to get them muscles up. But this is one of the top 5 greatest matches in my opinion, because the storyline was just amazing. These two worked very well together in the ring, and you got the storybook ending where Kurt Angle not only defeats Stone Cold, but then superstars rush out to lift him up. Family comes in the ring to just celebrate what he just did, because at this time Austin is just an unstoppable force. That's number 5 for me. Number 4, my main man Eddie Guerrero facing off for the championship against Brock Lesnar. You want to talk about an underdog? Brock, as big as that man is, Eddie as small as he is, it's just crazy to think that Eddie can go in there and beat Brock. But what makes this so special is one of the realest promos that could ever be performed in WWE is when Brock and Eddie are in the ring. And Eddie talks about all his addictions. The drug addictions. The needing to show his family that he is the one, that he will support them, that he will be the greatest, that he will be the champion, that he will conquer all. He brought what is supposed to be storyline, and I'm sure it is, but what is supposed to be storyline but scripted, he brought real life. He allowed everyone to feel like if they are dealing with something in this real world that causes them to struggle, he made everyone feel like, man, put all that stuff to the side, muscle up, head front, focus, and believe. And if you do that, you can conquer everything. And I know that sounds cliche, but you gotta sit back and you gotta listen to that promo between Eddie and Brock to understand. Then you go to the match, and it's just a bunch of technical wrestling, high flying, high impact moves. And of course you get a feature of my man Goldberg coming in there. When you think Eddie's gonna go down, Goldberg comes in because Brock took his eye off the ball and wanted to start drama with Goldberg. And this was like early Brock Goldberg, so this wasn't even like the newer time, like in 2015-16 when he came back. This was like back when they had that horrible WrestleMania match. But Goldberg comes in, hits Brock with that spear. Eddie hits Brock with the championship, hits him with a frog splash, and 1, 2, 3, you lie, you cheat, you steal. That just hits all the loudspeakers, and Eddie, again, huge underdog, takes the belt from Brock, setting up Brock versus Goldberg at WrestleMania. Number 3, Undertaker versus Triple H. Hell in a Cell, end of an era match. Now, to give you guys a heads up, all 3 of my matches, my final 3 matches, are Hell in a Cell matches that all include The Undertaker. But this end of the era match, man, you want to talk about like a career just coming full circle. I mean, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, they've all followed each other's career this entire time. And end of the era match, you got the 3 previous years have Shawn Michaels versus Taker in a classic, Shawn Michaels versus Taker in an even better classic, Triple H versus Taker in a match that Taker wins but can't even walk out of the ring. He has to be carried out. It's the first time the man can't leave on his own 2 feet to set up this match, end of the era, where Shawn tells Triple H, you just can't beat Taker. And Undertaker tells Shawn, don't get involved. Don't do anything to affect the result of this match. And the WWE comes out and says, Shawn, since you so directly involved in this, you the special guest referee. And you just already know that there's going to be some drama with Shawn being the special guest referee, because you got Shawn never being able to beat Taker at the big event. This is his opportunity, ironically enough, to beat Taker, because he's going to be the one to count the 1, 2, 3. You got the DX connection between Triple H and Shawn, which they played off very well in the final promo before this match. But then you get to the match. The amount of chair shots that Taker suffers. The dialogue between Triple H and Shawn. H telling Shawn, you better stop it or I will end it. Undertaker breathing heavy saying, don't stop it. You better not stop this. Triple H going to end The Undertaker with a shot with a sledgehammer, and Shawn getting involved in taking this sledgehammer from Triple H. Triple H pushing Shawn and said, if you're not going to end it, then I will. So you better end it. And then you get Triple H and Shawn get a little physical, but that's nothing. They're friends. Then you got The Undertaker, who chokes out Triple H with the Hell's Gate, but he had already thrown Shawn out of the ring, and he had gotten physical with him. So now Shawn's pissed. And Shawn comes in with, full disclosure, guys, I am a huge Taker fan. This is probably the only time. There's a lot of false finishes, but I mean, the greatest false finish, in my opinion, is this one. Shawn Michaels comes in pissed, and he hits Taker with a sweet chin music, which turns him into the pedigree. And you're just like, oh, this is it. And Taker still kicks out. And the Shawn Michaels running to the turnbuckle, sitting down on his butt, and just in fears, like nobody could beat this guy at WrestleMania, period. And Triple H not knowing what to do. And honestly, at this point, you kind of figure that Taker's gotta win it after kicking out, and he does. He puts Triple H away with the tombstone, but then it's just an act of class. An act of class because they all three of them, carry each other out of the ring, stand at the top of the ramp, and reminisce over job well done of an era between the three of them and all the other wrestlers that came before them. Number 2. As I told you, Hell in a Cell's, right? Guys, I got you. I bet you probably thought this was number 1, but this ain't number 1. Number 2 is Taker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell. Now, that's the most famous Hell in a Cell. You know, Taker throwing Mankind off of the top of the cell. Famous. Well, I love this match for all the action, but I also love the match for the storyline and everything that led up into it. I think on the 10-year anniversary of this, Taker and Foley sat down and actually talked about this match on this anniversary. Maybe it was 20 years, 25 years, I don't know. Whatever the anniversary was, but they sat down and talked about it. And the things you learn from their conversation. Taker came into this match with a broken foot. He climbed up that cell with a broken foot. Mick Foley was asked by Vince McMahon if he had been on top of the cell to scale that fall, because that was a planned toss off of the top of the cell. And Foley told Vince, yeah. And Foley admits that's the first biggest lie that he had ever told Vince. And the next biggest lie was he, something along the lines of, he knew that if he had gone up there, he would not have been the person making that toss off. The match starts, and a little bit back and forth, and Taker throws him off of the cell. And I mean, that impact is crazy. The crowd goes wild. They're getting the medical attention. The match is supposed to be good there. I mean, that drop was nasty. They start lifting the cell with Taker on top of it. It's just so real, surreal, because the crowd is just sitting there in awe. And Mick gets halfway up the ramp, gets up off the stretcher, and says, nah, I'm going. I'm gonna keep going. This ain't gonna be the end of me, dead man. And he proceeds to climb the cell again. And Taker, who had just finally gotten just about down, says, "Oh, you think you about that life?" Taker gets back up there. And Mick is so tired after that first car crash, essentially, that he lays on the top of the cell. And him and Taker come to a few blows, but then Taker grabs him by the throat. Choke slam. But what you don't know, and I appreciate Mick and Taker talking about this, is that Mick talks about how tired he was. He had gotten up so high several times with the choke slam, feet off the ground, etc., like impact move. But in this particular case, he was so tired from that car crash and climbing the cell, he couldn't get his body off the ground. When you see it, you can see that Mick barely gets up off the ground. And because of this, and because of them both being 300 plus pounds, the cell can't hold their weight, and Mick goes through the cell with that choke slam, and he lands perfectly. Mick talks about that if he had actually gotten up for the choke slam like he did any other time, that he would have overcorrected and landed on his neck. That man could have been dead with that move. And unfortunately, WWF has dealt with something like that with the death of Owen Hart. We were mere inches away from another man having his life taken, but by the grace of God, and yes, I did say that, this man was too tired, and the move went off. The cell did what it did, and he landed the way he was supposed to land. 2 car crashes, 1 match. Taker jumps down as they're bringing more people in for medical attention. And guess what? They keep going. And at a point, Mick Mankind, who is the actual character in this, gets the upper hand on Taker, bloodies him up a little bit. And what does he do to seal it all off? The tax. Thumbtacks. And he winds up taking a couple slams on them. Tombstone out of here. One of the greatest matches of all time. At number 1, Taker versus Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell. Because that was just simple. It was an overall better match than Mankind and Taker. The wrestling, the storytelling within all the moves, the lead up to it, how Shawn and Taker got matched up when Shawn clapped Taker with a chair shot, and when he was, ironically enough, special guest refereeing for Taker and Bret. But it's not just that match. Like they fought to the death, and there's blood and gore, and Taker takes over, and Taker is about to just dog Shawn. Put him down. Ain't nothing that Shawn can do. But the other storyline that was getting covered all the way up to this match was Paul Bearer running his mouth. You got a brother Kane. Who survived the fire, who watched you kill your parents. And this match was so good that people have forgotten all about that storyline. Taker about to go and push Shawn away. Boom! Flames. Who is that? That's gotta be Kane. Big man coming in, breaking down the cell door. Greatest debut in WWE history, realistically. I mean, I guess Chris Jericho might rival it. But standing face to face with Taker. Flames. Tombstone. That's right, guys. Taker hit Kane with a... Oh, no, he didn't. See, that's what you guys thought. Kane hit Taker with a tombstone. Who just did Taker like that? The only person that could, his brother. And that concludes my top 5, guys. Some honorable mentions from my other guys. WrestleMania 17, Rock vs. Austin, seems to be one of the big matches that everybody seems to like. And I do remember that. That was an excellent, excellent match. You got the original TLC match, which when I was putting together my list, I didn't even think about this one, but this here easily could have slid into my top 5. But you got the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Ed and Christian. You got the spear when Jeff is holding on to the titles, tables, ladders, and chairs. I mean, that match is just such a classic. Obviously, Taker Mankind is on the other people's list too. You got Cactus Jack versus Triple H in a hardcore match at the Rumble. And you got Kurt Angle versus Shane McMahon, which very underrated match. I didn't even really think about that one. But when you do factor in that Shane was not a wrestler, they tried to throw him through glass. It didn't work, so they had to redo it and finally got through. And this is when Shane introduced Coast to Coast for the first time. A man that's not a wrestler out here just proving that he got his own stripes. Other matches, other honorable mentions. You got Rock versus Cactus Jack in the I Quit match. I mean, obviously, that was just a hell of a match. My other boy said Ray versus Eddie in a ladder match for the custody of Dominic. Man, that was just crazy. That was just crazy. How y'all in here having a ladder match for the custody of a child? Like, obviously, you know, things are staged, but it's like, you want to talk about bringing real life into the ring right there. That's where you do it, right there. And then I disagreed with this one, but he had another Taker Hell in a Cell match. It was Taker versus Boss Man when he hung Boss Man. That was a match. Controversial, but that was a match. Next we head to top 10 wrestlers. And I'm going to hit you with my boys wrestlers first. His wrestlers are Kane, The Undertaker, John Bradshaw Layfield, Eddie Guerrero, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, Cactus Jack, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vader, Kurt Angle, and rounding out his top 10, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, which he did specify. This is in no particular order. Me knowing who he is, I can tell you that at bare minimum, though, his number 1 being Kane, that is in a particular order there, because that is his favorite wrestler. My other guys have thrown in most of these same guys. I know one of my guys had D'Lo Brown in his top 10, which was entertaining for me. With his little head nod. I know The Rock is honorable mentions and all that stuff, but I'm going to give you my top 10. And mine is going to it's going to start from number 10 going down to 1. And yes, I'm a different cat. I know that everybody's lists are different, and I can explain certain ones, but yes, at number 10, believe it or not, this guy is all the way down at 10, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I just kind of feel like it's almost blasphemous in a way to not have Stone Cold in the top 10 for everything that he's done with the glass shattering, with the stunner, with the beer drinking. Everything that he's done is just crazy. Austin 316 just said, I just whooped your yada 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 yada. Gotta love him. Number 9. Guy who's also just been able to change his character so much. You heard me mention him earlier. In my opinion, he is the only person that really can rival the debut of Kane. But that is Y2J Chris Jericho. Technician in the ring, technician with his wrestling, technician on the mic, character to character, the list. You just made the list. That's right, Chris Jericho. You just made my top 10 list. Number 8. Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist. And, I mean, that is pretty simple. One of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. One of the best high flyers. One of the corniest people on the mic, but can still put it together. One of the greatest guys to sacrifice for the company. Like, Kurt put on some great matches, man. Like, and then that devastating ankle lock. Whew. Number 6. Now here's where the controversy begins. People are gonna have opinions, and you are welcome to your opinions. I will take it all. I'll take all the criticism for this one. But I'm talking top 10 wrestlers on my list, and it is based off of in-ring, it is based off what you did on the mic, it is based off promos, it is based off of career achievement. Number 7. Chris Benoit is on my list. Love me or hate me. Hey, it is what it is. Number 6. One of his other boys. One of Benoit's other boys. Eddie Guerrero. I think they won the championship actually in the same year too, ironically enough. But the lie, cheat, steal gimmick was just amazing. Eddie actually started out his career, I believe, or mainstream career in WCW, and I enjoyed watching him there too. But Eddie just had a way of just grabbing our hearts, man. Like, that frog splash is devastating, but him on the mic is just who? And you know him, the man behind the character, like, also did deal with that addiction stuff, and it's like, man, it's crazy to think of all he was able to accomplish. R.I.P. Eddie. Number 5 for me is Kane. And again, greatest debut for most people. Also a man that is able to adjust his character over and over and over again. A modern day version of King, a silly version where he's teaming up with the Hurricane when he's with the Authority. Like when he came back with the black mask, when he had the no mask, when he was bald, man. King was that dude, man. Fire and brimstone. And I'm glad too, because the guy behind the character, Glenn Jacobs, he didn't have much success before this character, but he got this character and he took it and ran, and nobody could have ever done it better than him. Number 4, Shawn Michaels. Love him or hate him, man. That guy, Shawn, he was a pompous butt wipe at the beginning of his career. I mean, obviously, you love the times where he was with Marty Jannetty and stuff, but I really loved him, DX. I loved when he was doing everything with Brett, and yes, I know, the Montreal screw job and stuff, and he was aware of it, other people were, but yeah, that sucked. That was horrible. That was a horrible business move by WWF. But the man in the ring is the showstopper, the highlight of Mr. WrestleMania. That Sweet Chin Music, man. He tuned up the band so many times. And now he's giving back, man. He's doing the NXT stuff. Like I said, you can't hate on DX, man. I remember going to events at the Gund Arena, and I remember getting the DX jerseys, man. Like, DX was that revolutionary for WWE. Gotta respect that. Gotta respect that man. Gotta respect everything that he did with his matches with Angles, matches with Angle, matches with Triple H, Taker, Brett, Ric Flair. Man, he retired Ric Flair. And that was a sentimental moment. Number 3, his best friend, Triple H. Man, when they did the whole, the curtain call thing, when it was Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, Triple H, man, took the brunt of it because Shawn was the champ. H and Hall were heading to WCW. So Triple H, who was set to get a push, man, he got dropped to the lower card and had to work his way back up. And yet he did, man. The King of Kings. Triple H, the game. Man, that dude, first off, some of the greatest entrances at Royal Rumble ever. One of the coldest finisher moves in the pedigree. Man, that dude is a great wrestler. His rivalry with The Rock is out of this world. With Taker, obviously, his viciousness with Shawn. In my opinion, he made Randy Orton with the turning on him in Evolution, and realistically got Batista's career kickstarted too. Like, Triple H was that dude, man. His little mini rivalry with Sting, like his marriage with Stephanie, and then back and forth with, okay, they're together, they're not together, they're together, they're not together, with Triple H and Chris Jericho going back and forth. Like, Triple H done had rivalries, Brock Lesnar, Vince, all of those, man. It's just crazy how much this dude did. And some people would have a lot of these people very high up on their list, like even higher than I do. But my top two, number 2 being Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Dude Love. But obviously they're all 4-1. But Mankind, man, what he did with his body, what he did for the company, that Hell in a Cell match, but not even just that, just everything he did. The viciousness that he went through with, as we mentioned earlier, the I Quit matches with The Rock. He had boiler room matches with Taker, hardcore matches with Triple H, getting set on fire, going through a table, getting speared by Edge, getting thrown off the top of a cell, boom, through a cell, boom. Chair, the hardest and loudest chair shot to the head possible in a ring, boom. Hitting The Rock at an anniversary reunion where he hits The Rock and how does that make you feel? It doesn't matter how it makes you feel. And just runs around the ring and cheering, and the whole crowd is cheering because he just got The Rock, and The Rock has to break character and can do nothing but smile because it's just like, he's just so authentically awesome. And rounded out the top, my favorite wrestler, the GOAT, Mr. Mark Calloway himself, The Undertaker. Yeah, I can bore you with the particulars of the streak. The streak was awesome. But he's also somebody that was able to change his character, man. He evolved the different levels of darkness. He went into the American Bad. Like, he came back and did like a makeshift version combination of American Bad and The Dead Man. And had some of the greatest rivalries ever. I mean, his rivalry with Orton was crazy. The Legend Killer Randy Orton. And obviously Mankind. Obviously Triple H. People don't realize that Taker and Triple H actually had 3 WrestleMania matches. Taker's won all 3. Got 2 with Shawn. He's got 2 with Kane. He had a handicap WrestleMania match with the Streak and won it. Yeah, it depressed me a bit when Brock took his streak, but hey, everything has to go at some point. I mean, he even brought it to modern day times with the Boneyard match and AJ Styles. It's like, this dude, 30 years of service in the business, and I love his podcast that he's doing right now. Man, I'd love to have a conversation with Mark. That is just awesome. His rivalries with Austin, Rock, Brock, and then he had the respect of the locker room too. People knew that if you screwed up or you did something stupid, you would go have to deal with Taker in the back. Getting Big Show going, and Big Show tells funny stories too about how tough Taker is. Viscera, all of them, man. But that rounds out my top 10, guys. And that rounds out episode number 3. Obviously, y'all's lists are different. Both for the top 5 greatest matches of all time and top 10 wrestlers. Let me know. Tell me what they are. Tell me what I can do better. Again, I'm going to continue podcasts, and I'm going to give you something. I'm going to try to give you something every week. I'm going to try to be on here doing different things. I'm going to try to be talking about everything. If you got something you want to hear me talk about, throw it in the comments. I'm going to give it a B, and we can chat. Again, we're going to try some lives at a point. I'm going to throw a number out there soon, but I just got to see how you guys are receiving this and if you want to chit chat. Stay tuned for episode 4, where I believe we might be visiting a little bit of my bourbon, my beer, the booze, because again, topic of B's, baby. I'm going to give you a B. Have a good night.